of our director, Ashley Cash, and Mayor Jim Strickland. And we do thank them for giving us this opportunity to engage with our community and share information. But first of all, I would be remiss without introducing the best team, in my opinion, in the whole wide world. And that is, I'm going to say, Mr. Sherman Robinson, Ms. Lakeisha Smith, Miss Stephanie Hope. You guys wave at the people, wave. And Miss Tammy Davis. And we are affectionately known as The One. So sit back and relax and enjoy this conversation. Also, at any time you can put your questions in the chat, but our speaker will allow a few minutes afterwards to for Q&A. And any comments that you may have, you go certainly welcome to use the chat platform. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Lakeisha Smith, and she will introduce our speaker for the evening.
Good evening, good evening. Our speaker, Mr. Myron Mays, is a nonprofit administrative specialist with over 22 years of experience working with tax-exempt organizations. He specializes in the areas of startup, public relations, fundraising, board development, and compliance. To this date, he has assisted in the startup of over 500 nonprofit organizations. I present to you our speaker for the hour, Mr. Myron Mays.
Hey, how y'all doing? Great. Almost seemed like I should have put a powerful sermon together for after that introduction. But basically, ditto everything that she said, and I guess I'm gonna try to pull up this presentation right quick. One quick second. Okay, so let a couple of people in. So let me get to the presentation, and there we go. All right, well, this presentation was kind of known as everything you need to know about nonprofits. And basically, this is my my main presentation. Who am I? Of course, Ms. Smith already kind of went over that. And I am a nonprofit administration specialist. I hate using the word consultant because you know it really doesn't. I guess it really doesn't give any. It doesn't basically give what I actually do. And consultant is so general that basically with consultants, they come do a job and they leave. But I'm an administration specialist. I kind of stick around with you even after you get your 501c3. I'm kind of there as a resource for you going forward, which means that you can always call me if you have a question regarding your 501c3. I only invoice if I have to do some work. So, which means that, I'd rather for you to call me and ask me all the questions you need to ask before you actually make a move, and it end up being a move that costs your organization money. So basically what I do, I assist new and established nonprofit organizations in the areas of startup, structure, and sustainability. Those areas include 501c3 prep, board development, fund development, marketing, public relations, and compliance. Compliance pretty much covers your annual reporting that you have to do state and federal wise. Um, I guess when I did this presentation, I had over 17 years in nonprofit administration. I have raised over $1 million in funding, over $30,000 in in-kind donation. Most of that is actually from one company. Some of the places I've actually worked at: Soulsville Foundation, Stax Museum, American Red Cross, Black Business Association, of course, and at the time, I had prepared over 365 501c3s. Right now, if I had to pinpoint that number, is probably about 515. And I actually assist maybe about 220 of those organizations every year with their annual reporting and things of that nature. At the time, I had prepared 501c3s in at least 13 states. It's actually 19 states now. Of course, including Tennessee, Mississippi, Arkansas, Texas, Kansas, Missouri, Georgia, California. I think I've added Alabama, Florida, and a bunch more since then. And these are just a few of the organizations I have helped start. So what does nonprofit mean? Basically, being a nonprofit organization doesn't mean that the organization doesn't make or generate any money. That's one of the misconceptions of nonprofit. What I have actually, I'm letting a couple of people in. What I've explained to people before, let's just say that you have a for-profit company, and basically this company makes, I'd say, $1 million over what they projected to make. So basically, within that $1 million that they made extra, some of that money goes back to shareholders if they have stock in that company. Those are the profits. And some of the people who may actually get some of that money may be the CEO of their company. Those are the profits. Anything basically that's made over what they projected, those are profits.
I'm in.
So with that, nonprofits are a little bit different. Nonprofits doesn't have owners. Nonprofits are basically public organizations which are governed by a board of directors. So whenever there's money coming into the organization, instead of that money going back into the pockets of owners and shareholders, that money actually goes back into the organization. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't make money. It just means that the profits go back into the organization instead of in the pockets of someone else. And I always like to point out one of the most successful nonprofits that are out there, which is St. Jude. So St. Jude makes a lot of money, right? So, you know, when the name is basically saying nonprofit or not for profit, that's basically what it means. It does not mean that the organization is not making any money or does not generate any money. They just don't give the money back to owners or shareholders. So it's a public organization which is governed and operated by a board of directors and has no owners. It also does not pay federal taxes on its income. And since it has no owners, it means the profits go back, of course, into the organization. Someone who runs or operates a nonprofit may pay themselves a salary if their budget supports it. So, you know, if your nonprofit brings in $500 a month, you know, you can take part of that $500 a month and actually pay someone to operate your 501c3. And if you have any questions while I'm going through the presentation, feel free to chime in. Sometimes some of the questions that come up as we go end up being some of the best questions of the presentation. So yeah, feel free to stop me and ask questions anytime you want to. So what is a tax exempt organization? There are various types of tax exempt organizations that are classified by the IRS. And a few of those types include 501c6, which is business leagues or trade organizations like BBA. BBA was a 501c6. There's a 501c5s, which are agricultural or horticultural and labor unions, which we're familiar with those. 501c4s, neighborhood associations, of course, and there's a 501c3, which are your basic charitable organizations that we're all familiar with. What does it mean to be a 501c3? Being a 501c3 means that the organization was created for a nonprofit purpose, and an organization that's considered tax exempt, where it's classified under the Internal Revenue Code 501c3, depending on what its purpose is. A nonprofit can exist for religious purposes, educational purposes, scientific purposes, or charitable purposes. And in most cases, all 501c3s are charitable. There can be multiple purposes, but they're all charitable. 501c3s typically serve a need in the community, which means that a particular nonprofit organization has been approved by the Internal Revenue Service as an organization that was created for charitable purposes, which means that all nonprofits are supposed to have a mission statement. And that mission statement basically sums up in one sentence what that organization does. So that being created for charitable purposes means that the organization is exempt from federal income taxes, which means that everything that organization does under its mission, whatever it generates from its mission, it's pretty much exempt from federal income taxes. There are certain things that nonprofits may do that still could be taxed by the government. For instance, what is it? Red Cross I used to work for. Of course, Red Cross does disaster assistance. They help those who have been affected by house fires and things like that. But they also do health and safety training and things like that. So they sell products that doesn't necessarily fall under their mission statement. However, there are some services, even the Red Cross actually offers, that get taxed by the IRS. And all contributions made to that organization can be used as a tax deduction by the person who donated, whether it's $1 or whether it's $1 million. Basically, whoever donates to that 501c3, they actually get a tax break based off of the amount of money that they actually donated.
Hi, good evening. Quick question. The mission statement, where is that typically documented?
The mission statement, when you first do your apply for 501c3, there's a space for that. So that's where that mission statement is first and foremost established. Also within that application, there are what they call NTEE codes. Basically, that's what they classify you under. So between your mission statement and that NTEE code, that you're pretty much classifying what type of organization you're planning on being and how you're operating. That pretty much sets the that sets the tone basically for what you're planning to do, and the IRS makes the determination based off of those two things.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. And also, with 501c3s, the organization qualifies for most grant funding that is available for organizations of its type. And when I say organizations of its type, most of the grant funding that's out there are basically set aside for 501c3s, basically because the corporations that donate to 501c3s, they're getting a tax break also. So basically 501c3s are what a lot of your, I guess, your Nikes and your FedExes and Kroger's and different companies that give grants. They would prefer for you to be a 501c3 because that's basically how they get their tax breaks. Steps to becoming a 501c3 is basically done in three portions. First, you do the state portion, and then the federal portion, and basically it's done in this order. You file your charter with your state, and when you file your charter, you file your bylaws and everything that comes with that. Also, after that, you apply for an EIN number after you basically have become established, and then the last part of it, you apply for tax exempt status with the IRS. Basically, you're becoming an entity first, and then after you become an entity, you apply for tax exempt status, which makes you a tax exempt entity. So it has to be basically done in that order. Prices in Tennessee to file a charter. Well, actually, it's like 100 for Tennessee, but it varies. Some states are as low as $50. Some states are as high as 125 to do a state charter. I think the highest is probably Pennsylvania. I think Pennsylvania is 125, and there's a couple of other states that are that high also, but Mississippi is only 50. I think Georgia's only 50. Ohio is 100. Arkansas is 50. So it just kind of varies. EIN numbers. EIN numbers are absolutely free. If you ever apply for an EIN number, make sure you get it from the IRS. There's a lot of people out there that that take advantage of people not being up on everything. I've seen people pay as much as $275 for an EIN number, and pretty much you pay somebody, they're going to do the exact same thing that you can actually log on to the IRS website and do for free. And then your information is floating out there with somebody and you have no idea who they are. And, they've gotten your money. So please do not pay nothing. Do not pay for an EIN number. Tax exempt status with the IRS, that price, if you do the short form, that price is $275. If you do the long form, that price will be $600 to apply for that. And the cost to prepare everything, it just kind of varies. Depends on who you get to actually do your pull your documents and stuff together. Some people charge as low as $500. I just so happen to know that guy. And some people, they charge $1,500 and up. And so it just varies, and it depends on who you get to do your work for you. Before COVID,
Sorry,
oh, go ahead.
question too, for the previous slide, you wouldn't happen to have screenshots of those different forms? I just like to make sure my understanding of what a charter is, for example, is correct. And then will you go into the difference between the long and short forms?
Oh yes, I actually got that coming up.
Okay.
Because I like explaining that part.
Okay.
But and I can probably show you a state charter while we're inside the presentation. So, and that way you can know what that looks like. But before COVID, you can receive 501c3 approval as fast as like 3 weeks to 30 days. And in some extreme cases, it could have taken as long as 6 weeks, depending on if the IRS requested more information about your organization. However, it's gotten better since I put this presentation together. Uh, Typically, they're coming back now between 4 and 5 weeks. But yeah, during COVID and right after, it was taking 3 to 4 months for them to actually approve your 501c3, pretty much because a lot of the IRS workers were working from home, and it was hard to actually get somebody on the phone to even check up on your 501c3 while it was in the process. But they've gotten a little bit better now. As a matter of fact, the quickest I've seen one come back have been, I'd say about a month ago, I had someone had theirs come back in like 3 weeks. So it's gotten a little bit better. It's gotten kind of close to what it was before. But I always say this, you hear people, they throw around 501c3 all the time. Man, you need to get a 501c3. You need to do this. You need to do that. But I always tell people, before you embark on something, know exactly what you're getting into. And I always say, ask yourself, what is my purpose in this world? And I've had to ask myself that, and a lot of things that I've gotten into. But always ask yourself first, what's your purpose in this world? Second, what was I put here to do? And these are really good questions to to ask yourself. Look around, see what your community needs, and ask yourself this third question: what do my community need? And number four, what can I realistically do? We all have a lot of we all want to save the world, and ain't nothing wrong with that. But it's easier to reel it in a little bit and actually work on saving your community. A lot of us need to reel it in a little bit and work on saving our households, before we try to take on, the world and everything too. But you have to you have to ask yourself, how can I make a difference? And if you make things reasonable for yourself, and that 501c3s aren't easy to run. Grant money is not falling out the sky. I know a lot of people who run nonprofits, and they're still spending their own money, which depending on what your answers were for what is my purpose, what was I put here to do, what does my community need, what can I realistically do, how can I make a difference? Sometimes you have to spend your own money because of that. And there's nothing wrong with that. You don't necessarily want to always do that. You want to get yourself to the point to where raising money is a part of what you do, and you want to make sure that that you're able to get out there and do what you signed up to do. And good news, bad news. Which one y'all want first? Good news or the bad news?
Good,
Good
good.
news.
Right.
Good news.
You want the good news first? Usually
Yeah.
people want the bad news. That's why I put the bad news first. But running a successful, that's the bad news. Running a successful 501c3 is not easy at all. I do a lot of 501c3s for people, and I actually have a 501c3 of my own. And no, it's not even easy for me. And chances are, you won't get rich running a nonprofit. And you know, and you hear people talk about grants like they just so easy to get. Grants are not easy to get. Grants are easy to apply for. They're not necessarily easy to get. Um, and also, you know, you may look out there and realize that somebody's doing the exact same thing that you want to do. And even after you start doing what you're doing, somebody's going to come after you and do the exact same thing that you're doing. So you have all of these people reaching into the same pot of money. And it's a lot of nonprofits out there. It's very competitive, and grant money will not fall out the sky. I know. I've been looking, and there's not even enough grant money to go around to all of the organizations that may even qualify for it. So with that, you have to take all of these things into consideration when you're getting into, you know, trying to operate a nonprofit. Because, you know, if I know y'all seen this guy here, right? He sell the big book with the grants, and he just, you know, talk like, you know, all you got to do is just ask for this money and the government just send you a check. No, it doesn't work like that. But here's good news though. Running a 501c3 is very rewarding. You'll feel good about yourself. You'll help a lot of people. You'll make this world a better place. You'll get a chance to walk in your purpose, right? Yep. And so with that, knowing what your purpose is allows you to operate your nonprofit regardless of whatever happens. Whether you make any money off your nonprofit or not, if you feel like that's what your purpose is, you're going to get out there and you're going to make it happen anyway. You won't depend on a grant or a donation to make sure that your nonprofit is successful. You're going to get out there and you're going to be running this thing with passion and purpose, because you'll be doing what you felt like you were put here to do. Recent changes in the tax exempt process means now, you know, of course, 501c3s are done electronically. You don't have to worry about sending off a 12 pages of documents to the through the mail and waiting on it to come back. You can actually do it electronically and you can get it back quicker. IRS filing fees are not as expensive. Of course, you know, now instead of $600 with the long form, you can do the short form, and you can, you know, you can get it back quickly, and you can get it back, you know, where it's not as expensive. And the IRS requires less documentation that they required before, and you know, the turnaround time is kind of getting back to normal. And in a lot of cases, the 501c3 preparation cost is less now, depending on who you know get to do your preparation for you. Now, before I get into this, I'm gonna explain the long and the short form. Basically, the long form was what had always been there. It was $600 to file this long form, and you may have seen on the form it says that if you planning to make over $50,000, you do the long form. If you're planning to do under $50,000, do the short form. And basically, what that caused people to think was, you know, if you wanted to make over, if you wanted to bring in over $50,000, you have to do this long form. And if you wanted to bring in over $50,000, you couldn't do the short form. That's not what that means. The short form, under $50,000, basically, if you make under $50,000 with your 501c3, you're required to file the 990N, which is the postcard version of the 990, which doesn't ask for a whole lot of information. If you make over $100,000, I mean, if you make over $50,000, they require you to do the longer form because you actually have to do a different 990 if you make over $50,000. So if you make over $50,000, you actually have to file a 990 EZ. If you make over $200,000, you have to file the regular 990 form. So basically, it does not mean that if you're planning to make over $50,000, you got to file this particular form when you apply for your 501c3. Not what that means. It just means that when you do your annual report, you have to file a certain form. So it kind of has given people a and I wish they would actually clear that up too, because that it causes a little bit of confusion, and it causes people to because if you make under $50,000, you do the short form, you can bring in $1 million. You just have to file your 990 regular form every year. So basically, that it doesn't mean that you're restricted or anything like that. Any other question on that, on the long and the short form?
I have a question. So I know you just described the 990 EZ form that's based on the 50K plus.
Mm-hmm.
It's 50K or less. It's the 990
Yeah,
right?
50K or less is the 990N.
And
Yeah.
okay. And so then what would constitute us filling out the short form?
Nothing. I always tell everybody, fill out the short form.
Oh, that's the first I've heard that one, but okay.
Yeah,
Good. I'm glad I'm on that
fill out the short form. Because I mean, you can basically do the same thing with both. And the IRS is not going to come back and say, you made over $50,000. We're going to have to shut you down. That has never happened.
Okay.
So,
And so I
go
don't
ahead.
know, this is kind of your wheelhouse, but the 990N, is that part of the annual reporting or the
Yeah,
tax reporting?
the same thing.
Oh,
Annual reporting could be state or federal forms. You have to do both of them every year. If
okay.
you don't do your state every year, your charter will get revoked. If you don't do your federal reporting every year for about 3 years, they'll revoke your 501c3.
And the 990, is that a federal or state form?
Federal.
Federal, okay.
Yeah, it's your 990N for under 50,000, 990 EZ for 50,000 and up, $200,000 and up is your regular 990. And each one of them has a different amount of pages. I think the EZ is 4 pages. The regular 990 can be up to 15, 20 pages, depending on, how much stuff you have to report.
And the 990N?
The 990N is electronic, so it's just you have to create a logon, and you just go on and just basically you're confirming your address. You're not even for the 990N, you don't even have to put numbers in. So you can make $49,999 and still do the 990N, and it won't require you to put any numbers in there.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, and in a way that kind of shows what the IRS is actually interested in. Anything $50,000 and less, they kind of really don't care about. They care about 50,000 and up. But your real work will begin after you become a 501c3. So I tell people all the time, I try to do all of the work when I do a 501c3 for someone, because you would only have to do that once. As long as you do your annual paperwork and keep up with, keeping your stuff in compliance, you'll never have to do another 1023 form or 501c3 application ever again. But if you, of course, miss your annual filing for the state, you have to do your state charter. Well, you have to get your state charter reinstated. But after 3 years of missing your IRS filings for your tax exempt portion, you'll basically have to do your 501c3 portion all over again. But your real work starts after you become a 501c3. Getting a 501c3 is easy. Keeping it, having it operating well, that's where the real work starts. And with that, I have created this thing called the top 10 things to do after you become a 501c3. And basically, and I'm willing to share this presentation and everything too. So, because this part coming up now is probably one that you really would want to hang on to. So, top 10 things to do after you become a 501c3. Number one, turn on the PR machine and keep it on. Document your success stories and get the word out. Basically, if you run if your organization basically, operate a kids group, and you have some standout kids in your group that are very impressive, it is in your best interest to document those stories. If you have some really smart, standout young people in your group, do a press release, write a story, put it on your website, send an email out, make sure that people know about this, because your organization is really only as good as the work you do. And sometimes the people who are your clients in your organization basically can do a lot of the work for you, and all you got to do is just shine the spotlight on them, because it's really all about the people who you're out here helping. Number two, choose the right board members. Make sure they are always working. You may have a board member, one or two, that you may have on your board for name recognition, or for influence. But I'm gonna tell you the best board members to get. It's three of them, three different types. Best board members to have in your organization. Number one, someone who can donate some money. Great board member, right? The second board member, second best kind of board member you want to get is somebody who can influence other people to donate money. That third board member, you want to get a board member who brings a skill to your organization that you don't have to spend money on. I tell everybody, everybody should have a graphic artist on their board. Every organization should have a great social media person on their board. Even a lawyer, just someone who brings something to your organization where you don't have to spend the money on. Because when it all boils down, it all comes down to the money. I mean, to really operate a nonprofit organization, you're going to need a lot, you're going to need some money. And sometimes, it just might be the money out of your pocket. But you got to get out there and you got to go and get the money. And fundraising is the heart of your nonprofit, and you can't be afraid to get out there and ask for some money. If you're passionate and this is something you feel like God put you here to do, and something that you feel like, I was put here to do this, you're going to do whatever it takes to make sure it gets done, right? So you want to make sure that, you ain't scared to ask for some money. Of course you can, apply for grants and things like that. However, you, at some point, you're going to know who has the money, and you'll need to go to them and ask for it. Networking and connecting with the right people. You have to think strategically when it comes to networking on behalf of your organization. Don't waste time. If you go to a party and everybody on the left side of the room, the thing you need to do at that party is make sure you get to know everybody on the right side of the room, because you wave at the people that you know, but you want to spend time with the people that you don't know, because you want to make them aware of who you are and what you're out here doing. You develop an elevator speech about your nonprofit. You need to be able to explain what your nonprofit does in 1 minute. I'd say have a 30-second version and a 1-minute version. And just based off of, what situation that you're in, based off of who you're around, just use your best judgment on which one that you do. But you don't have to try to, just get into everything you do in that one conversation. You want to make sure that you just make them aware of who you are and what you do. Get a card from them, and that way you can set up a meeting with them later on. You can call them at their office or what have you. But you just want to make sure that they're aware of you and what you're doing out here. Be sure to file your state and federal annual reports, even if you don't bring in any money. Even if you bring in zero, you still have to file your 990 every year. Because again, if you don't do that for 3 years straight, they'll revoke your 501c3, and you're basically, stuck having to start over again. Keep clean and organized records on everything. Make sure that everything is in order and easily accessible. Like I tell everybody, just get a binder, and all of your, your 501c3 stuff, everything that, the state sends you back, keep it there. Everything, the IRS sends you back. Make sure, that you keep that stuff organized, because you never know when you might be asked for some of that stuff. Number 8, always stay true to what your mission statement is. Stick to what you do and focus on getting better at it. If your organization helps sick children, don't be out here trying to help sick pets. Stay focused. Don't split your focus, because that keeps you from operating, the best that you can operate. Focus on what you got in business to focus on. Number 9, stay true to your purpose. If this is your purpose, you'll see it through, right? And number 10, never forget, it all comes down to the money. Board members, executive director, volunteers, public relations, services, marketing, mission, etc. Everything you do eventually leads back to money. So never forget that, and don't feel bad about it. Sometimes you may actually have to do more fundraising than you do service delivery, because to do some of the things that you really want to do and really want to reach people, it's going to be some cost involved in that. So you always not only have to make public relations and communications part of what you do, you have to make fundraising a part of what you do also. That's if you want to survive and have some longevity and in the field. But this is my information. Those are the services that I offer also, and that's my phone number. And if you want to get a hold of me to ask questions and things like that, you can always text me or you can call me. And I typically don't answer the phone after like 6 o'clock now. And I used to go up until like 10, but I've stopped at 6 o'clock now because I'm getting old. And but basically, any questions or anything that you have, you can always text me or call me. My store is Pac Mail on Union and Midtown, and I'm typically there 3 days a week. And so, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays, you can always drop in and catch me here, and and ask 501c3 questions and stuff like that too. But with all of that being said, speak questions. Anybody got any? Anyone?
Hi.
Anyone?
Hi, I had a question. I put it on the chat, but I was wondering, I've heard that you need a physical sponsor to start a 501c3. Do you need one? Is it easier, or does it matter whether you have one or not?
I've done that. I've been on both sides to that. I've have been a fiscal sponsor, and I have had one, of my own. Here's the thing with that. Fiscal sponsors are good in a certain way. Because you can actually start your program. You may not be ready to start an actual 501c3, but you may have a nice program that really helps some people, and it may be a program that that may be one that could get some good funding for. And but you always have to remember that having a fiscal sponsor means that if some foundation wanted to give you money for your program, they're going to send it to that fiscal sponsor, and that fiscal sponsor will have the discretion of funding your program, because they're the ones who will have to do the reports and account for the funds and things like that. So I always say, when you get involved with an organization where they're going to be your fiscal sponsor, make sure you have everything spelled out, and get it all on paper. Because if you have a program, you need to have a budget for your program. Also, you need to have basically all of your expenses for your program listed out. And also on your program, you want to have each particular service listed out, and just the basic things that, of course, they ask for on grant applications and things like that. So you want to make sure that, you and your fiscal sponsor has an understanding, and who's going to run the program and how the program is going to be run. Because pretty much, fiscal sponsors can do basically what they want, because they're being given the money for it. So, always get everything in writing, get an agreement, and that way everything's on paper and everybody knows what they're responsible for, and it won't be any confusion once, someone writes a check for it. But on the other hand of fiscal sponsors, that could really give you a chance to, make your program flourish, and give you an opportunity to really grow your program. Because if you get out there and your program is really kicking butt and really helping some people, and you're getting a word out, and you're doing the PR thing like you're supposed to do, you're still building a background, because your program basically is going to speak for itself, whether the program is under your 501c3 or whether the program is under somebody else's 501c3. So if you're really getting out there and you're doing everything that you need to do, you're gonna get the word out, and at some point you're gonna want to start your own 501c3 and expand that program, and actually make it stand on its own. So fiscal sponsors, they're good, for what they're good for. But I always tell people, at some point, if you want to, grow and expand your program, use that as a springboard, and actually from that point, start your own 501c3, and that way you can do more of that.
Thank you.
You welcome.
I think
Any
you
more
touched on this a bit throughout your presentation, but I was wondering if you could walk through the compliance responsibilities after we receive approval of our 501c3? I know you said, we have our annual state and federal reports, but is there anything else
Yeah,
we should be
let's
aware
just
of?
say you got your 501c3 this year. And 2024, um, you will have to renew your charter. If you're in Tennessee, let's use that for an example. You'll have to renew your state charter every year. And that's like basically, it's a $20 fee for that. And you're basically, just pretty much confirming that everything is the same. You still exist, and everybody who is running the organization is still running the organization. If there are any changes, you actually have the opportunity to make those changes and everything every year with that. Pretty much with the federal part of it, they don't charge a filing fee or anything for that. But with the federal part of it, let's just say you're making over $50,000, which I hope anybody who starts one makes way over 50. But what they want to basically on these reports, what they're wanting to know is where you're operating from, who is running the organization, what are some of the things that you've done, and this is depending on which level of 990 you end up having to do. They want to know how much money you brought in, who donated the money that you brought in, who donated the bulk of the money that you brought in. Is that person a part of your board? They just want to make sure that you're not doing anything unethical, number one. And number two, they really want to keep up with how much money that you're making. And so that those annual reports are basically there to for them to, to an extent, keep up with what you're doing. Those annual reports, those 990s, they're made public. So whatever money that you brought in and whoever you got the money from, all of those documents, they're made public record, which means that anybody who supports your organization, they're able to look at your annual reports and see how your organization is run and see how many people actually donate to your organization so they can keep up with it. So if they want to donate money to you, they can tell whether you're an organization that takes care of what it's supposed to take care of, and I guess of being a good steward with the donor's money. So just like filing taxes. They want to know how much you're making and how much you're paying and why you're not paying this much and everything. And if there's something that, is not right, then they'll jump in there and, do what they do.
Okay, so I captured the state charter and then the 990s.
Yeah. And those
Okay.
those are basically the two parts that you would have to file every year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I know we got another question.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask how we can reach you. Is there like an address or just the email? An email.
There we go. There's email and there's my cell number there. And Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, I'm here at Pac Mail at 1519 Union in Midtown. And you can catch me here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this great presentation.
And I'm all over social media too. I'm everywhere. And even on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and all of that, you can find me under your 501c3.
So do we have any more questions? Okay, now's the time. Ask, ask, ask.
And I will stop the screen share there.
So, okay, well, if there are no more questions, Myron, thank you again for always being there for us, and we really appreciate it. Wonderful presentation, and we just want to say thank you, and thank you for everyone participating in this how-to. And again, if you do have questions, he has given his contact information, and if you didn't get an opportunity to get it, we did record this how-to, and it will be on our Facebook page. But you can call our office, and we certainly will be able to put you in contact with Mr. Mays. Again, Myron, thank you so much.
Anytime.
You always come, and we really appreciate it. And thank you to the one. And we're just gonna say good night, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your evening. And be
Good
safe.
night, good night, good night.
Good night.
Good night.